This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening everyone and welcome to Southern Cross News. There are major concerns tonight for hundreds of Tasmanians who've undergone colonoscopies, with fears their procedures may have missed a crucial step. The patients of the Lenna Valley Calvary Hospital are being advised to undergo a repeat procedure. Our reporter Louise Hedger is at the Calvary. Louise, what has caused this?
Well, Joe, it's no doubt come as a shock to many tonight, with 390 patients who had a colonoscopy here at Calvary in Lenna Valley between November last year and May this year now being urged to have those procedures done again. We do understand that the hospital did tell us today that Dr. Hugh Jackson performed those procedures. He's now passed away, but the hospital is concerned that some of those procedures may not have been done correctly, with some parts of patients' bowels not being scanned properly. It is understood that some nurses did raise some concerns about whether Dr. Jackson was actually clinically fit to perform those surgeries, but he did continue working. He passed away, as I said, 2 weeks ago. The hospital says it did enact all appropriate procedures to address those concerns, and that the incident is low risk for those patients overall, but it is taking all precautions it can to ensure that it covers all bases. Now, Joe, for those patients who are concerned, there is a dedicated website online with more information and a dedicated phone number that they can also call.
Louise, thank you very much for that report. Louise Hedger joining us there. The Health Department is close to securing an agreement with a new provider for affordable surgical abortions in Hobart after the withdrawal of the only low-cost provider last year. But the state opposition says the procedure should be more widely available in our public hospitals across the state, as the new plan will disadvantage women in regional areas.
The issue of access to abortions has spurred protests and political debate, triggered by the closure of Tasmania's last low-cost provider of surgical terminations in December.
I think for Tasmanian women, this has been the most appalling time for women to have to go through this process, to have to be sent interstate.
Some women flying to Melbourne to have the procedure. One provider, Mary Stopes, saying Tasmanian cases went from an average of 1 a month to 10 women a month.
When will women be able to access safe, affordable termination services in Tasmania? Will it only be when your Health Minister resigns?
In question time, the government confirming it's in the final stages of an agreement with a new private provider.
The Department of Health has now, in fact, reached an in-principle 5-year agreement for a new private provider to deliver services in Tasmania.
The Day Procedure Centre is set to come online in October, operated by a fly-in, fly-out doctor. It will be located in Hobart, with intrastate travel subsidies available.
We still advocate that there is better regional access for women requiring surgical termination of pregnancy. So, look, it's a welcome improvement, but we still would like to see women not having to travel long distances.
Women still today do not have access to terminations, and we have a public hospital system that could provide them. What we do know is that the government has no commitment to have that safety net of the public system to catch those women for whom travel to Hobart is unmanageable.
Our public hospitals will continue to provide terminations in cases of high need, such as to save the life of a mother or where there's severe fetal illness or damage. This, as I say, has been the long-standing policy position of successive governments.
Health Minister Michael Ferguson wasn't available for interview. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
There's been a climactic conclusion to the saga which has consumed Tasmanian football over the past 6 months, with AFL CEO Gillon McLachlan making his highly anticipated return to the state today to deliver his steering committee's final decision. Our sports reporter Tom Cooper has been following the story from the beginning and joins us now. Good evening, Tom. What does the end product look like?
Good evening, Joe. Well, there will be some who think the AFL has been generous and, of course, some who believe that we've copped a raw deal, but ultimately the final package presented today is designed to create a united model for football that the state can be proud of, from junior talent pathways through to the TSL level and eventually having our own side back in the VFL competition. Let's take a look at some of the finer details of the AFL's grand plan. Staying true to his word, the AFL CEO delivered his steering committee's findings in person.
Over the next 3 years, our vision is to rebuild and to unify Tasmanian football.
Hoping to fix what he says is a fractured system, talent pathways and community football are at the forefront of the plan, with the AFL to inject an additional $1.4 million a year into the state from 2019.
There's a pathway for every girl and boy in Tasmania, whether it be 10, 12, 15, to invest in. They know where they're going.
Our best young talent will also receive more exposure in front of AFL talent scouts from next year, with a Tasmanian side set to enter the country's premier under-18 competition, the TAC Cup. While it's hoped an increase in resources for women's football will see a side playing in the female version of the competition from 2020. The state will also be granted a provisional licence to re-enter the Victorian Football League from 2021, but unlike the TAC Cup sides, the AFL won't be footing the entire bill.
The push into the VFL will deliberately be left for Tasmania to fund. It needs to be united from all of Tasmania, the north, the south, the northwest, to come in behind it.
Each representative side will carry the one name set to be decided on by the public, while the idea of a Tasmanian side in the AFL has been put on the back burner for at least another few years until the successes or the failures of the new model become clear.
Right now, I speak to Tasmanians daily, weekly, and there's not a structure for them to invest in to go forward. And this gives them that.
The TSL will continue as a 7-side competition under roughly the same funding model until a worthy candidate for an 8th team is found, preferably from the embattled Northwest region.
So we're going to make sure that the Northwest is looked after, and AFL Tasmania does take responsibility for that region.
Football hubs will also be set up in the south, north and northwest of the state, run by 3 regional football managers yet to be appointed.
We'll establish regional advisory commissions working with local leagues and communities dealing with local issues.
But the move could bring about the end of the current Tasmanian Football Council.
And these are committed football people, so we work through actually how that fits in the coming days and weeks.
TSL clubs Glenorchy and North Launceston have already expressed their disappointment with the model, claiming the AFL missed a golden opportunity to make the state league bigger and better.
There's not a lot of joy in it. It has a similar joy factor as having a slow dance with your sister.
Fane's grumpy all the time, I think you guys know that. I reckon he does a lot of slow dances with his sister. Sometimes the best you can hope for in my job is that everyone's equally unhappy.
Tom Cooper, Southern Cross News.
The Red Cross is making an urgent appeal for more blood donations across Tasmania as reserves for O negative fall to just 2 days' supply. The service has been struck with a wave of cancellations, with donors falling victim to the cold and flu season.
This has the power to save up to 3 lives, but the Red Cross says reserves for O-negative blood are running critically low across the country.
We're calling for about 4,500 O-neg donors nationally. We have a real need for O-negative blood, the universal type.
That makes it ideal for transfusions in emergencies when medical staff often don't have time to assess the blood type. But frequent use in hospitals, coupled with donors struck down by cold and flu, has seen supplies dip, with just 2 days' worth of reserves now remaining.
O-negative blood gets used much more quickly. It's usually used within about 4 days of being taken, whereas normal blood usually about 8 days.
Around 9% of Australians have the blood type, including centre worker and donor Tammy McKenzie.
Come on in because it's a great need for it at the moment as well. We don't have a whole lot in supply at the moment, and especially over the winter period.
To show just how serious the situation is, in the past week the Launceston Blood Centre has seen 50 cancellations, 1/3 of them from O-negative donors. 1 in 3 people will need blood during their lives, but only 1 in 30 are rolling up their sleeves. Even some donors know firsthand the difference giving blood can make.
I needed it. I had an accident and I needed it myself. But being a O positive blood type, it was easy for me to get mine.
Anyone able to donate can head to one of Tasmania's 4 centres or head online. Sean McComish, Southern Cross News.
More Tasmanian restaurants than ever before have been named among the best, with 5 establishments from the Apple Isle making the country's top 100. Hobart's Franklin took out top spot for the state, coming in at number 14. New Norfolk's Agrarian Kitchen Eatery, listed as 32, also received a special mention as Australia's best newcomer. A Tasmanian brewery has produced a true golden ale, taking out top prize at a national beer competition. Van Diemen Brewery hopes its winning ale will help raise the profile of the fledgling product.
Beauty is in the eye of the beer holder. And the judges at Sydney's prestigious Independent Beer Awards liked what they saw when this Tasmanian brewery raised its glass.
More than anything, it was validation for the hard work we put in here at the brewery.
Will Tatchell's thirsty work is claiming credibility by the carton after taking out 7 medals from the awards, including a gold for Max, his signature beer made entirely from ingredients grown on site.
Terrific result for a beer that the furthest an ingredient travelled was 430 metres.
The recognition may not translate into sales straight away, as the beer is on a limited release.
We'll brew it again. But when we're working with an indigenous yeast, we have noticed a shift of flavour profile with that yeast.
One thing which won't change is the name. Max, along with its hoppy sidekick Edward, are named after 2 of Tatchell's sons.
After the success of Max and Edward, it's now time for the brewer's 3rd son, Oscar, to have his very own beer. An Indian Pale Ale named in his honour is about to begin production.
We're actually going through the process at the moment of malting some barley, and the moment that we've got that ready to go, we'll be in a position ready to brew that. So I'd expect that to be released at some point in the second half of this year.
Well over 100 breweries from around the country entered the awards. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's Education Union is ramping up its calls for increased pay and better conditions for its members. The organisation today submitting 2 log of claims to challenge the government's stance on public sector pay rises and to call for a new teachers' agreement.
Tasmanian teachers are the lowest paid teachers in Australia, and a 2% wage increase, which is the government's wages policy, is going to keep them lowest paid, and that's just unacceptable.
For someone like myself who always grew up wanting to be a teacher, it's disappointing that the kids of the today don't have that same feeling because they see the workload and the stress that the teachers can be under.
The government says a 1% increase in wages is equivalent to 200 teachers, and they wouldn't be able to employ that many. Tasmania is set to soon be the most connected state in the country, with the NBN rollout almost complete. Businesses say they're reaping the rewards, with fresh connectivity making work on an international scale a whole lot easier.
It hasn't been an easy road for the NBN or its customers, but it's becoming smoother.
Well, as the first state to get it, we've actually had to learn many of the rollout lessons here in Tasmania first, and now we're exporting that knowledge to the rollouts in other states.
Despite those teething issues previously facing much of Tasmania, the NBN's fixed line rollout now covers 99% of the state.
Well, NBN's commissioned research which shows that we've now created over 700 jobs in Tasmania in the digital space, and we're predicting that by 2021 that'll be over 12,000 jobs.
This connectivity boosting local business opportunities.
Being able to shift large file sizes relatively quickly. I mean, what would take us 24 hours having to do through a freight company, we can do now over lunchtime.
Tas ICT says connectivity is crucial for the sector's success.
We've actually got people that are working in the international space right here in Hobart and Launceston. So it's presented a huge opportunity and huge growth. And the ICT sector will really take off from this point on.
Louise Hedger, Southern Cross News.
Now a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. Australian shares have finished stronger on the back of gains in financial, energy and healthcare stocks, which outweighed losses in the mining sector. The ASX 200 index has risen by 32.4 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 73.69 US cents and 63.25 Euro cents.
As we heard earlier in the bulletin, AFL CEO Gillon McLachlan returned to Hobart today to deliver his steering committee's final model for the future of football in the state, with the AFL set to deliver an additional $1.4 million in funding per year from 2019. 3 new football administration hubs will be set up in the south, north and northwest, along with regional advisory committees in the hopes of boosting participation numbers and strengthening talent pathways.
There's a pathway for every girl and boy in Tasmania, whether they be 10, 12, 15, to invest in. They know where they're going.
The AFL will also fund a Tasmanian under-18 side in the TAC Cup from next year and has granted a provisional licence for the state to re-enter the VFL from 2021. Wet and muddy conditions return to Symmons Plains for today's secondary all-schools cross-country. 1,300 high school and college students braved the cold to complete up to 6 kilometres of running.
They enjoy crossing the line with their friends, but they also enjoy seeing their fellow peers that actually take this quite seriously cross the line.
The best runners earn a place at the National Championships in August. And finally in sport, Tasmanian Wayne Stubbs has received 8 Ball's highest honour for the second year running. The Qist has been named in the 6-man world team, which is made up of the best players from the world titles held in Blackpool, England. Stubbs had the best winning percentage for Australia in the Masters division at the titles. The Devonport Locals' next big tournament is in the Nationals, being held in Albury in October. Gotta love a sport that lets you train at the pub. That's it for sport, Joe.
Good evening. Bushy Park, Campania and Hobart all on our warmest today of 16 degrees. Launceston 13, Burnie and Devonport 14. Fingal with the overnight low, -2, and even though the wind started to freshen, temperatures were on or above average today. Ouse 15 degrees, Lyawini and the Harts Mountains 7. All other reporting centres maxed out on 13. A combination of low and middle level cloud over the state today, mainly over the north and west, produced a shower or two over western areas. Mount Reid 7 millimetres and Strawn 5. Thick cloud with a cold front and tropical moisture streamed across Western Australia, the Bight and also our region. A cold air mass is visible behind that system. Onshore winds brought cloud to the east coast of the country. And tomorrow the cold front nears our west coast with a trough extending through to WA, as well as another front. A high over the Tasman extends a ridge back over eastern states. North to northwesterlies at 20 to 30 knots, increasing to 30 to 40 knots over the west and south, where a 4-metre swell will roll in. A gale warning from southeast Cape to Stanley. A strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters. A small craft wind alert for the lakes. As the winds pick up, a shower or two will blow in over Hobart, a top of 15 degrees, 15 also for Geeveston, a shower or two as well for Bothwell, 14 the maximum. Launceston, showers on the way, a windy day and 15 for Devonport, same forecast for Cressy as well, but 13 the high. For Burnie, showers developing, a windy day and 15, 14 the top for Strawn, and also showers for King Island, 15 degrees. For St Helens tomorrow, a shower or two developing later, 16, 16 also for Swansea and 15 the top for Orford. On Thursday, showers increasing to rain over the north and west. A fine start elsewhere before those showers catch up with everyone. Rain statewide on Friday, easing to showers by the afternoon, and more showers on Saturday with snow to 700 metres. The strong winds will shift west-southwesterly during the day. A morning storm likely in Perth tomorrow morning. Winds easing from Adelaide, partly cloudy in Melbourne. A sunny day in Sydney, a top of 20, and the chance of a shower in Brisbane. And the cloud cover keeping the temperatures warm for this time of night. 14 in Hobart, 12 in Launceston, 12 right now in Devonport, Joe.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for that, Murph. That's all from the team for now. We'll see you a bit later with updates. Good night.